There's three reasons I like it. I was going to write something short about it, but I can do that. How are you doing? Craig Durr, Chief Founder, and let's do that again.
Okay. Welcome to Zcast, everyone. I'm Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research, and I'm here at WebexOne in Fort Lauderdale with Craig Durr from the Collab Collective.
Hey everyone, this is Craig Durr, Chief Analyst and Founder of the Collab Collective.
Good. We're here. The show just wrapped up. There's a great WebexOne. There was lots of product innovation, especially on the UC side, which was good to see because I think Cisco's has obviously put a lot of effort into the contact center business.
Yeah.
And it's good to see that they're also innovating on the unified communication side.
I love it, because in the contact center, they really honed in on this idea of customer experience.
Yeah.
On the UC side, they're embracing the term employee experience. So they're thinking about it from an employee's perspective from a lot of different points of view.
Now, they announced a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And the thing that got the most applause, and I thought this was kind of funny, was the ceiling mic.
I know.
And even when we unveiled it, it was very Apple-like. They had the ceiling mic, come off the screen, and you showed it in the box, and things like that.
Funny.
And I know part of the reason was because the last product wasn't very good. But what'd you think of ceiling?
And, you're right. You're like, really, for a ceiling mic? But there's some underlying things if you know some of the nuances of that. So you hit the first thing. In their previous portfolio, they had a ceiling mic, but it was analog. It had a piece of plexiglass that you held up and stuff, so it wasn't really that good. So in combination with what they're doing with their table mics in this and doing this digital audio element with all these MEMS mics, they kind of completed a portfolio. So for teams that are the sales team going out in motion, now they have these really good products that they can talk to small, medium, large room, and those big rooms with that too. The other thing, like I said, was the technology too. So now, instead of just being this analog and I need to have this piece of plexiglass to direct in the right area, they can now manage it. So they can manage the pickup of what's taking place. It's dynamic. So it not only supports these speaker modes, but think about their cinematic camera mode.
Right.
Now they have a really good opportunity to pick that up too. And then the last thing, which is subtle, you and I had more insights than maybe the general audience. This is the first thing they're launching under this new design language we're talking about. And what they're doing is they're doing design from the top, from sustainability. They're thinking about that down, not as an afterthought. So some of the cool things is like there's no plastics in this as well. Everything is reusable. The size was smaller, although it did still look big from the original design, which means like the packaging is smaller.
Yeah.
So, they've accomplished a lot of things with this just being the tip of the spear.
Yeah. In fact, Cisco devices always had good design, but it wasn't, consistent from device to device. And I think the design language, they talked a lot about that and how it's everything from the look and feel to the way they're covered to, like all that's going to be more consistent.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a good thing. We talked to Gavin Ivester, did some presentations with us. He had some really good information around what they're doing around the devices.
Yeah. And so to take advantage of that, they also announced something called their Workspace Designer.
Oh, yeah.
Which I thought was great.
Well, tell me what you thought about that.
Well, I think when you're thinking about building a room, there's so many options: large screen, small screen. What kind of mic do I put in? Do I need a ceiling mic? What kind of camera do I need? And so this tool now allows you to go in, and it's really almost like you can think of it as a digital twin of a conference room.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, and it shows you can play with different configurations, and it'll show you that screen's too small, it's only going to reach here, or that mic's not going to work in that environment. And so it'll allow you to optimize the technology. And so you think of the way you do it now, you put stuff in, that doesn't work, so now we're going to take the technology out, put some new stuff in. This makes sure that whatever you deploy in there is right for that room.
It's exactly right. There's been online tools like this before from other vendors, but this one you can adjust the size of the room, the size of the table, the number of people in the room to really hone in on what your specific room looks like. And then you get these different views. I can see what it looks like from the top. I can see what it looks like at the end of the table. And the coolest thing I like about that is you finish up and you push a button and it has what it calls a blueprint.
Yeah.
And it goes down where it outlines not only the recipe of all the hardware needs, but what is that room dimension? What's this information? So you can use this not only for IT, but for facilities, even for HR to say this room is now optimized for X number of people and things like that.
And it works with Microsoft Teams rooms.
I know it does. They did show that. Interestingly enough, talking about that real fast, they've alluded to that they are probably one of the largest growing providers of Microsoft Teams room devices with their WebEx devices in that mode. It's an interesting statement they made.
Yeah, in fact, I know they've been seeding a lot more devices out there, specifically for Teams rooms, which has allowed them to keep a lot of customers maybe they wouldn't have in the past.
Yeah, true.
I've talked to Microsoft about it, and they like the Cisco devices. They'll tell you they really are best in class, right? They're loaded with AI features. I think Sonora Jespu, the GM of device business, talked about this, that like in 2015, I think it was, before AI was cool, they actually cut the partnership with NVIDIA. So I remember when Rowan was running the group, and they had Spark boards, not Cisco boards. I remember him telling me that there's 7 GPUs in a board to help with audio and video and things like that. And so all that work they put in, a decade ago is now paying off today.
Yeah, I mean, to be able to have that known working code on top of this NVIDIA chipset, a lot of these people may only be beginning to develop. A lot of them went for the Qualcomm route as well, too.
Yeah.
So they have a lot of power in those boards and those devices to play with.
Yeah. Now, they also did a big push on their Webex AI assistant. And, and I think one of the interesting aspects of the way they're doing AI, too, is they're thinking about across Cisco.
Yeah.
And so your AI assistant in the security group will be the same one in the network, will be the same in collab, which is probably the right way to do it. I'm not sure. It's hard for me to understand, like, is this Webex assistant better than Zoom AI assistant? Microsoft's. In fact, at Zoomtopia, Zoom put up the chart that said theirs is 36% more accurate than Teams.
Yeah.
And I'm sure for whatever test they ran, it was. I think I could, if you ask Microsoft, they can go get a test scenario that showed them more accurate than ours.
Right.
And the only way for customers to know is to run it themselves.
It's true.
So we're in the very early stages, and I think it's hard for customers to really differentiate between them.
I did. Now, here's the other thing I need to figure out, do some more research on with their AI assistant, especially going all these different workloads. One of those key things from an end user point of view is how persistent is the information I generate. Let's say if I'm in a chat, going to be available to me with I'm in a meeting. So this has only been revealed. It hasn't been released as of yet. So I haven't had a chance to play with it. But that's going to be a key element I'm going to look for. What's the persistence of the information generated across all those different workloads?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how companies leverage these things too, because I do know even with things like Catch Me Up, you can get to meetings late. It tells you what you missed. I've also talked to some users that say, supervisors especially, they don't attend as many meetings because they know they can just get the summary of it later.
Right.
Where they might have had to before.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that's a legitimate use case. Like maybe you really, if you're a sales supervisor, you don't need to be on the call, but you need to make sure that the salesperson hit the key points. And so you might have attended before,
right,
which would take an hour of your time, and now you can just read the summary.
Oh, that's interesting, because there's this school of thought, like if I could do it in a summary, maybe I don't need the meeting to begin with. But I see the use case you're talking about. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and so we'll see how that gets adopted. And then the other question is, from here, where do you go? Right, Zoom went down the path of tasks.
Yep.
Cisco's looking at a lot more in the area of insights.
That's true.
That's
true. And they're doing it. It's interesting. They've talked about 3 different audiences when I was talking to the devices group. So we're talking about the end user experience. They're doing a lot around the IT administrator. Yeah. So they showed on stage today something along the lines of insights in terms of those rooms, which other people are doing, but the ability to use an AI assistant to quickly remediate problems, and not only remediate it for one, but across your whole portfolio. And then doing actually some stuff on the installer part, a lot of push button opportunity. The ceiling mic, that was a great AI-driven demo where they said, just pushing this button helps configure and set it up for the room. Very Sonos-like, or those old speakers in the room.
In fact, I think that's an area on the IT side. Yeah, I think that's an area they really lead the industry.
True.
Control Hub has been fantastic.
I love Control Hub.
And in fact, if you talk to Teams customers, managing those MTR devices in Control Hub is actually better than the Microsoft tools.
It's true. Yeah. It goes back to, actually, I'm thinking about the first keynote when G2 was on stage, right? One of the values now is he is Chief Product Officer across the company. Yeah. Control Hub is such a powerful entity, and we can see like how Thousand Eyes is being brought into there as well too. I'm curious to see what's going to take place across security or maybe even networking, if that's going to be pulled in. Yeah. And is it going to be clean, concise? What's going to take place there?
Yeah. So that's something I've been talking to Cisco about for a while, trying to figure out what they're doing there, because, and maybe I've been a little overly hard on it, but I sort of joke that there's no benefit in being the market leader in single panes of glass. Right?
Yeah.
Now, in actuality, what the networking team uses with Catalyst Center is unique to what a collab administrator might use with Control Hub.
Right,
but
exactly.
There does need to be data across those two, because there are some people that might need, like you might want, on the network team might want to know what's going on with the devices in order to help them plan network traffic and things, right? And then same with the security consoles and Thousand Eyes and things like that.
Got it. So you're alluding to this back-end AI exchange, not necessarily on the front of the glass taking place.
Well, I think you need separation of functionality, but you also do need some front-end integration. Right. And so that's to me, that's the hard part with a portfolio company like this that addresses multiple audiences. You can't bring everything in again. There's not one platform to all, but you can't have a bunch of different platforms that do their own things. And so and I guess this is part of G2's job. That's why he's getting paid the big bucks to figure out. Right?
Here, I'm going to close with a question you weren't expecting. 1 year from now, WebEx 2025, what would you like to see in terms of what we're talking about here at an event like this?
Well, that's a good question. I guess I'd like to see some more advancements in AI and some good use cases, but also some quantifiable benefits and for customers to understand when to use what and how, right? And I think part of the problem is there's so many, these things were very flexible. You can use this model or this model. Well, I don't know, is Llama better than Meta, better than OpenAI, right? And I think Cisco does big really well, maybe better than anybody. And I think they need to help their customers figure out how to bring all these different components of AI together and actually roll it out in a way that's usable by people, but also the benefits are measurable. I actually think the ROI on AI is a temporary thing that we think about. Because I remember early in my career, we used to talk about what's the ROI being on the internet. Nobody asks that now because it just is, right? And I think right now we're asking those questions. I think 10 years from now, we won't ask that question. But in this, while we're in this deployment phase, they do need to be able to answer that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we are seeing some, what appears to be practical use cases in the contact center space, right? And that's applicable. And they've got some great features in this UCaaS space too. I just want to see how that evolves. What's the next story taking place in terms of these? So like you said, other competitors out there leaning into summaries and tasks and then going to the next level. So I'm curious where these guys are going to take all these AI features and start creating a holistic story.
I think it would help too if the industry determined whether, came to some conclusion as to whether we're going to have people in office or not.
Right. So that's true. I mean, there was actually hybrid work was mentioned once or twice here. Surprisingly, AI wasn't the entire thing talked about.
But it looks like more and more companies are pulling employees back. I saw Dell's announcement. All salespeople back in the office gave no notice. But the more people back in the office, it's certainly good for the device business, right?
It is. I think no matter what, we're in a new way of work, call it modern work. There's still some element of distributed work. And so we still have to kind of connect those.
The good thing for Cisco, I suppose, is that I don't know what the future work looks like. Again, it could be everyone remote or everyone in office and every possible combination in between.
Right.
And that's what IT has to prepare for. It's that every possible combination in between.
Exactly.
So you need a lot of flexibility, right? Even when Sonora was talking about their Oslo office where they had one room that was big that was being used by small groups, they chopped it up into 3. I think that's an area where as we mature with people in the office, there will be some office redesign.
It's interesting, and maybe it's an idea that I would wrap up on. They were leaning in on AI as being a smart building technology. And I think what you're talking to is some use cases about that as well, too. So not only with their spaces and stuff and sustainability story as well, but they're also talking about optimizing use cases and stuff like that. So it's one of the ways that they're trying to bring this, at least to companies that have multiple buildings or footprints, how they can make it practical and applicable.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add?
I think we got it all.
Yeah, so that's great. So from WebexOne, on behalf of Craig Durham, Zeus Kerravala from ZK Research, thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button. I'll see you next time on our next episode of Zcast.
It's right down there. Subscribe.